Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest has written dozens of books on his own, and he has ghostwritten dozens of other books for various authors. Prior to becoming a professional writer, he was the director of computer operations for the grocery store chain Trader Joe's. His name is Richard Lowe, and here's my interview with Richard. Richard Lowe, welcome to Apollo Papyrus.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, my name is Richard Lowe. I am a ghostwriter. I've ghostwritten 49 books. I just actually started on my 51st for a client. I've written 60 books of my own. And before that, I spent 33 years in the technology industry doing tech stuff.
You've written over 60 books of your own. Without spoiling too much about your books, what are just a few of your books that you're most proud of about?
Well, I wrote a couple of fiction, very short books, under 10,000 words. Unlikely Hero, about a criminal that saves LA, and another one about how to create a zombie apocalypse. That one was pretty fun to write. And then a cybersecurity book, a book on LinkedIn, a book on eBay. Those both became Kindle bestsellers, and then a whole variety of other books on management things. I was kind of experimenting around. Oh, and then coloring books. I did about 20 coloring books.
Are all your books self-published, traditionally published, hybrid published, or did you use a mix of publishing methods for your books?
Mine are all self-published.
Okay. You've also ghostwrote 49 books, and you're working on a couple more for various clients. Who are some clients you've ghostwritten for, and what are a few of the books you've ghostwritten about?
Well, I can't name the clients because I'm under non-disclosure, but some of them were Fortune 50 companies. Some of them were small startups, business startups, things like that.
Okay, what are a few of the books you've ghostwritten, or is that still subject to non-disclosure?
I can talk about them in general terms.
Okay.
4 AI books, 4 books on cybersecurity, 3 books about digital transformation, plus quite a few memoirs and books that support franchises have been the primary things.
Do you offer ghostwriting services for types of written works other than books, such as online articles?
Yes, articles, blogs, general writing, and so forth.
I'm going to ask my next question in a couple of different ways, because the answer to each of them will probably be different. How do your ghostwriting services work? If someone listening to this episode wants to inquire about your ghostwriting services, how would that person go about doing that?
Well, first of all, they set up an appointment with me using my You Can Book Me application. That sets up a time. We meet, that's free. We meet for a free half hour to an hour to discuss their book idea and what they want, make sure we can work together, stuff like that. Following that, once we sign the statement of work, pay the down payment, we start on the first part of the book writing process, which is analysis. And to do that, I usually do 3 to 4 interviews a week for almost a month, and interview the author. I'm the author. Excuse me. The client is the author. I'm the writer. So that's the way I refer to it. So I let we talk to the author, basically hone it down to a very pinpoint, precise, accurate market, so that we have something to sell to, who we're selling to, why we're doing the book, what's it going to produce, what's the goal of the book. In other words, is it to promote their company, or is it to have, does he want to sell on traditional sales? Does he want to sell in bookstores, stuff like that? So what's the goal of the book? And then we talk about how to achieve those goals. And by the time we're done with that first month, we've got a plan for the rest of the book. And then after that, usually it's 8 to 12 months of basically a few interviews, and then writing the book, and then revising the book. And then by the end of the month, we've got a finished manuscript for the chapter. And then we move on to the next one until we're done. When we're done, we do one final pass of revisions, and then it goes off to a professional editor. That's not me. Somebody, I know several editors to give it that final polish, and then it gets published.
Okay, and regarding how ghostwriting works, does the author of record have to do some of the work, or can the ghostwriter do all of the work?
Well, I've written several books where I did all of the work other than a few interviews up front to find out what the book was about and so forth. It's a little bit better to collaborate, get a better book that's closer to what you want. But if you're a really busy executive and you just say, I want you to write a book on cybersecurity, and I get a few parameters around that, what do you want me to talk about? Blah, blah, blah. And then I can go off and write it because I've got enough knowledge of cybersecurity to do that. Or if somebody wanted a novel about some futuristic world, they could describe the world they want, and I could go off and write that. So it just kind of depends on the subject and how willing they are to put some time in.
Now, I understand because of non-disclosure agreements, you're not able to name any of your clients, but how are you able to land high-profile clients for your ghostwriting work?
It's my stunning good looks. No, it's that first interview. So once the lead comes in and I sign up the first interview, that's where we feel each other out, so to speak, and they determine if they can work with me. So far, clients seem to like to work with me, and I come across good in those initial interviews, and that's the key.
What is your writing routine as a professional writer like, if you have such a writing routine?
Well, keep in mind that I'm usually writing between 4 and 6 books for clients, plus 2 of my own at the same time, at all times. So I'm constantly working between those, depending on my mood and depending on what to do, schedules and things like that. My writing routine is basically I got meetings all day, like and podcasts, and then the rest of the time I'm writing. And I work Monday through Friday, 12 hours a day, just write. And then the weekends I'm off. I don't work weekends. It seems to work pretty well.
How do you handle writer's block for someone who writes professionally like you do? That can be very crippling.
Well, it would be crippling. That's why I can't tolerate it. So I take walks. I have hobbies. I work on multiple projects. So writer's block might be on one project, but not on another. I could do some creative stuff. Sometimes it's just slip away for the weekend and do something totally unrelated. Go to Disney World or something. It's just breaking the routine of staring at the screen and doing the writing is what's important. Exercise helps a lot. Also, in sleep.
Prior to becoming a professional writer, you were the director of computer operations for Trader Joe's.
Yep.
What was it like working as the director of computer operations for a grocery store chain?
Well, that chain turns about $20 billion a year. It's a pretty big grocery store. And I managed all the computers in the main office, all of the computers and the people supporting the computers in the main office. There was probably 1,500 computers, everything from laptops to big servers running the company's payroll and merchandising. So I ran all of those things, the disaster site, cybersecurity, compliance with credit card data, rules, all of that stuff I did or had hired people to do. And basically I had about 20 consultants and 8 permanent staff, and we basically worked our butts off 24/7 to keep things running.
How were you able to successfully pivot from working in IT for a retail chain to working as a professional writer?
Well, one day back in 2013, I became fed up with working 24/7, literally being on call 24/7, and those calls were very active. My sleep was out. I had just had a new boss. And things were changing, and it just became a very untenable position for me. So I said, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to stay here and fight it out and, be in this position that's not really working out? Or do I want to go out on my own? Well, I've got plenty of money and savings and stuff. So I jumped off the cliff, so to speak. And fortunately, I had a little bit of a parachute, and first I started writing. Then I found out it's difficult to sell books, and that wasn't where my interest was. So I started ghostwriting and hit it on that right away. Ghostwriting was what I wanted to do. And from there on, I just kept ghostwriting and immediately started making lots of money until now I make about twice what I was making as at Trader Joe's.
Richard, thank you for appearing on Apollo Papyrus. It was a wonderful experience to learn a lot about ghostwriting.
Oh, my pleasure.
I don't interview a lot of ghostwriters on here, but Richard was a wonderful and insightful guest. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to write and read your passion. Bye for now. Remember to subscribe to the Apollo Papyrus YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@ApolloPapyrus and the Apollo Papyrus Substack newsletter at apollopapyrus.substack.com. Y'all can visit the Apollo Papyrus website at campaaronapollo.wixsite.com/Apollo Papyrus and follow Apollo Papyrus on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr at Apollo Papyrus. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.